Hi viewers, welcome back to another series of a Spring Security from MasterJSkills. So hope you understood what is a security in general and what is a Spring Security, a basic knowledge of a security in the last video. Now let's see what is the authentication. In this video, we will understand what is authentication, why is authentication so important, and how authentication works, and what are the different authentication methods. So we will see complete in deep about authentication. In the next video, we will understand what is a authorization, then we will understand filters. Once this is done, if we understood the concept, then we will go and look into the practical exam how we can implement the security using Spring Security framework. So if you are new to MasterJSkills, please subscribe to MasterJSkills to motivate me to come up with a new videos. Without making much delay, let's understand what is a authentication in detail. So what is authentication? Authentication is the process of knowing and identifying the user that want to access. Authentication is the process that companies use to confirm that only the right people, service and app with the right permission can access to the service. So before jumping into this software technical speaking, so let's understand with a previous videos example, like house owner. If anybody comes to the house, they will first bell the ring, then the owner or anybody in the house will identify that person by using either a window or a CCTV camera or a door mirror, or by using their voice. So the first step is to identify who is that person, who is the belling, who is ringing the bell. So once we identify, yes, I know this person, so let's give the permission. Then we will open the door and ask them to come inside. So this is how we will identify that person. So that is what authentication is, a process of knowing and identifying the user that want to access. So they want to access to the service or your system or to the particular application you are developing. So first step is to identify. So the first step is to identify. So this process company uses. So this process the company uses to confirm only the right people, service or app with the right permission can get the access to the service. So authentication is nothing but identifying user. If the system knows that user, then they will give the permission to particular services. For example, let's take a social network. If you are using a Facebook, Twitter or anything, so first thing you will be entering your username. So that is what the username and password or any other different authentication methods we will discuss. So once we enter username and password, then the service will identify that whether this user is registered into our system. Yes, this person is registered and he or she have these many access to the system, and he or she is a user or belongs to which group, whether they are user or admin or some of the employees, or particularly they have different models. Then after using your username and password, they will identify these all the things, then only they will give the permission to access to the service. This is what the authentication. So authentication is nothing but identifying the user who want to access to the system. So the authentication process includes three primary steps. So to authenticate, the system uses three primary steps for authentication. First is identification. The user establish who they are by typing through a username. So first thing, using the username. So as we have discussed in the general example, first thing, once the person comes to the home and ring the bell, we will ask them, who are you? They will tell like, I am XYZ person. By knowing their name itself, we will get to know whether that person belongs to our house or family or friends, relatives. once we know that person name, then we will identify with other things, like we will see that person with the window or CCTV camera or door mirror. So this is how we will do authentication, or by listening to their voice. After that we will give the authorization that we will see. So first step is user establish who they are, typically through a username. So wherever the system is there, then there to log into that particular system, username and password is mandatory. First step is authentication using the username. So next is authentication. So authentication is typically a user proves they are who they say they are by entering a password. By entering password, they will authenticate, like this username and password matches into the system, and this person have access to our system. So by using the password, they will prove who they are, something only the user is supposed to know. But to strengthen security, many organization also requires that they prove their identity with something they have, a phone, token device, or something they are, like fingerprint or face scan. These all are different multi-factor authentication that we will see in a type of authentication method. So typically, to secure most secure of our system, we will use different like multi-factor authentication because of cyber security, or because of hackers. So the next step is authentication. Then the third primary step is authorization. So authorization, the system verifies that the user have a permission to the system that they are attempting to access. So let's jump into the general example to understand authorization. So authorization is nothing but once the person enters into the house, and we will see whether that person is a belongs to the host, then he or she will have a complete house access. If they are friends or relatives, they have access to a particular place, like living room or kitchen or particular bedroom. So this is how. If they are service people, like they came for repairing something, then they will have only the permission to that particular room. For example, there is some issue in the bathroom, then they will have access to only bathroom, not to the house. So this is a authorization. So by identifying after identifying, we will authorize. We done the identification, then we will do authentication, then we will authorize where and all they have a access to the system. For example, if they are admin into the system, they will have a complete access to the system. If they are a user, they will have a particular models. If they are an employee of the system, or if they are developers of testers, then they will have a particular access to the system. So this is how the system will be built, with an identification, authentication, and authorization to secure the system. So these are the main primary steps to do the authentication. Hope you got a clear idea of what is the authentication, authorization, and authentication. So it's an important part of a cyber security, because hackers priority is to gain a unauthorized access to the system. They do this by stealing a username and password of a user that do have access. So basically, the hackers priority is to gain the unauthorized access to steal our data. This is why they have introduced different types of authentication methods that we will discuss. So how much security we are giving to the system, that much it's highly secured. So we will see how we can do it in a later of this video. So this is mainly to protect our data. So the authentication and authorization is mainly to protect our data. The authentication is basically to protect our data and system from unauthorized people who can steal our data. So this is a very, very important, either in a day-to-day life as well as into the system like software field. Now let's see why is the authentication important. Authentication is important because it helps organization to protect their system, data, networks, website and applications from hacks. So basically to protect our system or data or network, whatever the website, any application or apps from hacks. Hacks is nothing but they want to steal our data. It also helps individuals to keep their personal data confidential, empowering them to conduct business such as a banking or investing online with a less risk. When authentication processes are weak, it's easier for hackers to compromise an account either by guessing individual's password or tricking people into the handing over their credentials. So, as already spoke about how the security is very important. If we talk about we are into the online world where we are using a complete banking systems or any investment, everything we are into the online. So once they steal our data, all the our banking, investment or any of our money, everything will be into the risk. To make it a very less risk, or so we will do the authentication. So hackers, they have a lots of ways to hack our data, either by guessing username and password, or they will fool the people by calling and handing over their credentials with a very tricky mind. So these all we have to concentrate to authenticate or to secure our application. So if there is a no authentication, then what can happen? So the data breach or a breaking will happen, installation of malware or such as ransomware, non-compliance with a reasonable, or if there is a no authentication, then what happens? Then it can lead to data breach, that is breaking. Data will break down, so anybody can use your data. Or if you give the installation of malware such as a ransomware, then your data will be gone. So non-compliance with the regional or industry data privacy regulations. So these all are the risk that we will have if we don't have a authentication. So it's very important topic. Whether you are developing a software, then it's a mandatory to have a authentication have your security model by using authentication, authorization and filters to lessen the risk of losing our data or website or from the hackers, completely from the hackers. So that's why the authentication is important. Let's see how authentication works. For people, authentication involves setting up a username, password, and other authentication methods such as a facial scan, fingerprint, or a PIN. To protect identities, none of these authentication methods are saved to the service database. Passwords are hashed, not encrypted, and the hashes are saved to the database. When a user enters a database, the entered password is hashed, then the hashes are compared. If the two hashes matches, then access is granted. For fingerprint and facial scan, the information is encoded and then encrypted and then saved to the device. So this is how the authentication works. If we don't hash the password, like let's take an example. I have entered a password, I have entered a username and password. So the password, if you observe, the password will be in a some dot dot dot, because nobody can see that. That is a completely privacy, that only the user is supposed to know that. So once we enter the password, if we don't do hashing or don't have any authentic or any uh, password protection methods, just we enter whatever the user enters, that password is, if they have saved into the database as a text, anybody can hack from the database. They can easily identify like this user has a password as this by reading that text. This is a very risky. So for that, there are some techniques where we can do the protection of password. using hashing technique. So once the user enters a password in text, once it enters to the software, so background, what we will do is we will do the hashing. That hashing technique will only know the software system. So there are different hashing techniques. So we will do the hashing of that particular password. Once that hashed password, that is not into the text, that will be into the some hexadecimal pattern, that we will save into the database. So that is there. Once when they are registering into the system, then we have saved that hashed password into the database, our database. So after once they register, if they want to log in, they will enter username and password again. Then that password will come to the system. Then that password will be again hashed with the same hashing technique. Once the hashed, whatever the hash text is there, then we will compare the same hashed password with the whatever we have saved into our database. If they both are equal, then we will grant the access to that user. If not, we will say that credential mismatch error to the user. So this is how we will protect our passwords. If in case there is a multi-factor authentication, if there is a multi-factor authentication, like once you enter the password, username and password, it may ask you for a fingerprint or OTP based or anything. So that we will see in a type of authentication methods. So in that case, or whatever the information you are giving, for example OTP or fingerprint or facial scan, that and all, that information we are encoding and then encrypting. That will be saved onto the device. So whenever you are logging in, initially this is saved into the database while registering. Once you have registered, this information is saved into the database of the system, and whenever while logging, so it will just take the information, then it will decode and decrypt, then it will match with the database data. If both are same, then it will grant the access. So this is how the authentication works. Hope you got how the authentication works in the software system. Hope you understood what is authentication, why the authentication is very important, whether in a general or in a software world, and how the authentication works. Hope you all understood clearly about the concept, and we will see what are the types of authentication in next video. And if you have a doubt related to this video, please drop in the comment box. I'll make sure to answer all your queries. If you learned anything from this video, please give a like. And if you are new to MasterJSkills, please subscribe to MasterJSkills. And if any of your friends are eager in learning Java and J2EE, please share with them. This will motivate me to make more such videos, and I'll come up with a very important topics in upcoming series. And in the next video we will see what are the types of authentication methods. We will learn all the conceptual wise, what all the methods we can use to secure our application. Later on we will jump into the authorization. Then we will see how we can implement using a Spring Security into the system. Even we will learn about the filters in the authorization video itself. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.